Hello everyone, this is Eugene finally speaking. So I'm putting aside the reaction video section for now because I don't have any new anime series to react to. But I'm about to finish some of my older anime, so do look forward to some final episode reactions coming up where I would give my overall opinion about an anime. But before I do all that, I thought it would be a good idea to let you guys get a general idea of what I take into account when reviewing an anime. And I'm planning on using this video as my new channel trailer, and I'm going to be talking about 15 possible elements to review an anime. These are things that I find are pretty important when it comes to an anime standards and all that sort of stuff. And this video is also kind of acting like a replacement for my older video, which is called 10 Things I Look For in Anime, which I swear is, now that I look at it, it's one of the most cringiest videos that I've made so far. I sounded so retarded. But whatever, I guess if you guys want to check that out, I'll leave a link to the in the description to that video, so that for whatever reason you guys want to check it out, that'll be okay. And also, I'm making this video because the information in that old video is kind of outdated, and yeah, not all the information is true now that I found out. And also, to do this video, it will also remind me of the things that I should be looking for when I review an anime, because yeah, if I don't look into that, I can kind of forget those things. So this would be important. And without further ado, I guess we should get straight into it. And to start with the first element, which is of course the first impression, which once again is one of the most important elements that an anime should get right, because they kind of give you an idea of what to expect ahead. I'm usually very tolerant because I've come to accept many of the surprises that anime can throw at me. Also, I know for a fact that the first episodes do not mean everything. Normally, I would give an anime 3 episodes to prove itself to be worth watching, but if it doesn't do that, there really isn't a point in wasting my time if I don't see hope in it, is there? And yes, I have dropped some anime before, which you probably will have heard of, such as Trouble Chocolate, Magic Fairy Persia, and Galaxy Angel, which I see no hope in recommending any of those anime. So basically, dropping anime with shitty first impressions helps in saving time, so you don't have to waste time on shitty anime. And continuing on from that is an element on the other end of the spectrum, which is of course the ending, which is one element that I take really seriously. I prefer if an anime ends with a conclusion because I love my things complete. That is why I tend to have problems with a studio called Madhouse, because many of their anime ends kind of prematurely. Take Highschool of the Dead, No Game No Life, and Sunday Without God. And a little story to share too. When I heard that One Punch Man was getting made by Madhouse, I already had concerns. And yes, it ended off too early as well. Well, I guess in a way it is a good thing because it gives an anime room for more if there is a sequel. At least it is better than anime ending in a chaotic manner. Take Chaos Head. Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah, what the heck. Which, oddly enough, is also made by Madhouse. What? But anyway, the point is that the ending of an anime can be a huge determining factor of the overall score of an anime. And now jumping into the third element which makes an anime what it is of course the animation. This element is probably considered a saving grace for an anime, because even if an anime ends up having a not so good story, a good animation can redeem it. An example of this is Arpeggio of Blue Steel. It's not so much of a bad story, but more of the incompletion of it. But my god, the animation of it is spectacular. Well, it's kind of cheating because it's 3D, but nonetheless, it's done really well. And this element kind of ties into the last element regarding Madhouse. To be honest, I can't really hate on Madhouse because while they tend to leave off with cliffhangers, they make up for it with beautiful animation, with my favorite of course being Sunday Without God. But I guess when it comes to best animation, nothing comes close to UFO table with anime such as Fate Zero. So in a nutshell, I'm trying to say that if I like what I see, then I might like it more than what I would have otherwise. And moving on to the next element is the art style, which is actually a new element that kind of derives from animation. While animation deals with motion and how objects in anime move, the art style deals with how the scenes look. This element is not really very important because it is hard to judge between different art styles when I don't really mind most of them. I guess the weirdest art style I know of comes from Shaft Studios with animes such as the Bakemonogatari series. They have a tendency of making really unusual backgrounds that make no sense whatsoever, and they can even add in cropped objects in real life. But I don't hate it. In fact, I look forward to the craziness in all this because it makes Shaft what it truly is. So the point is that as long as the art style suits an anime and looks decent, it really wouldn't affect my opinion on an anime all too much. And as we move along these visual elements, we come into the next one, which is of course the character design. What makes up the bulk of most anime are the characters. So of course, the anime characters need to look good and not become an eyesore when you are watching an anime. An example of bad character design can be found in Monster Musume no Iru Nichijou, which I guess you guys might be protesting right now, but I would say right now it doesn't apply to all the characters. But for those such as Syria, those boobs are way overboard, don't you think? While animation has generally gotten better as time goes by, character designs can vary tremendously depending on who's doing it. Some of the character designs from the 20th century can be as good as those that appear now. An example of this, which I've mentioned before in my previous video, is from Cardcaptor Sakura, which if you've followed my channel for quite a while, you have known is one of my favorite anime of all time, which is again made by Madhouse. Wow, I've been talking a lot about Madhouse in this video. So technically, the character design is a pretty important element because it's really all about the characters when it comes to an anime. Putting aside the looks and visuals of an anime, we need to look at what's inside, and so the sixth element focuses on the character personality. This is probably one of the more important elements in an anime. It is a really hard aspect to nail because many characters tend to follow a typical anime character stereotype that becomes somewhat cliché. This element focuses on whether an anime can prevent that and give the characters some development to become well fleshed out. The best example I can give of this is of course Kokoro. This anime nails the portrayal of characters brilliantly to give them personality, and they are not easily forgotten. I love every character in the show because of how different yet enjoyable they are to watch. If people could be like the 5 main characters in this anime, they would make the best of friends. But sometimes characters avoid the typical stereotypes but become atrocious to watch. And of course, I'm talking about School Days. This anime somehow managed to put in 2 of the most despicable characters in anime ever. That aspect alone dragged my opinion of the anime down a bit. But still, it is not even close to being my least favorite anime because that ending, I don't care what you say, I felt that it was so satisfying. Yes! Kill them all! Kill them all! In any case, it all points out that character personality is a very important element when it comes to reviewing an anime. And then moving on from the character personalities, we have the character reactions. This is another new element that I should have considered in my previous video. This element considers the responses that characters make depending on the situation. This element can be a fine line of whether I would like or dislike a character. But more importantly, it can also be a deciding factor of whether I love or hate an anime. This is one element that many old anime can't seem to get right. But here, we don't even need to go back that far, as we look at an anime made in the year 2000 called Trouble Chocolate. This anime just makes the characters look so freaking retarded, with responses so stupid or so damn slow. If there is one thing I hate more than anything else in an anime, it's retardation, because the cringe is too strong. But it's not something hard to avoid, so don't screw this up, anime studios. And the last element that focuses on the characters would be the voice acting. Let's be honest here, when it comes to anime, subs are better than dubs. Come at me, dub lovers, but just to clear things up, I don't dislike dubs as long as they are done right. In fact, as I've mentioned in my Code Geass review, I prefer the dub over the sub because of its general premise. And while subs are generally done really well, there are some exceptions, such as Green. This girl right here, worst Japanese dub ever. Get her the fuck out of here. One of the many aspects that make this anime the piece of trash it is claimed to be. But overall, voice acting isn't really an issue because it is usually done decently. And moving on to the next element, which is an element that probably most people look for, is the use of fan service. Now, we all know that's what many anime fans look out for. Come on, don't be lying now. And of course, I'm no exception. But the use of fan service needs to be done right and not hinder the progression of the story. This brings about the term ecchi. An example of fan service done right is in Highschool DxD or Highschool DD, whichever the correct name is. Because while there is fan service in abundance, the story does not slow down one bit. A really good combination. On the other hand, you have anime like Infinite Stratos that focuses too much on fanservice, and the big question remains, where the heck is season 3? Fanservice is really just a treat to the eyes, but it's definitely something I look into when watching anime. Next up, we have the 10th element, which is variety. What I mean is, if an anime has the ability to include multiple genres. This is not really a necessity, but it helps a lot to make an anime enjoyable. One very fine example is Sakurasou no Pet na Kanojo. This is another one of my favorite anime, and I highly recommend you guys to check that out. Besides all the heavy dramatic focus of the story, we have comedy, romance, and ecchi all in one to make it so much more enjoyable. Most anime tend to have a variety of genres, and these tend to outcompete those that stay in a single tone throughout. And moving on from that, we have the next element, which is what I like to call coverage. This element considers whether or not an anime covers as much as it should. It stresses on whether or not an anime is able to avoid leaving out as many unexplained mysteries as possible. As you all would know, I take this element very seriously because I want to know as much as possible. One very tough nut to crack, especially if the concept of an anime is very unique. A good example is Shingeki no Kyojin, or better known as Attack on Titan, as there are so many more mysteries about the anime that have yet to be solved. And going along with that, we have the next element, which is the script writing. This element is a huge selling point to me. If an anime is laid out in such a way that it tests your intelligence, I'd buy that so fast. It works especially well if an anime is really complicated but ties everything up nicely, and I cannot give a better example than Durarara. Just the way every single event connects to one another and how it is presented leaves me in awe. In general, if an anime is presented in an orderly fashion, it's good enough for me. But why stop there, right? And moving on from that, we have the next element, which is kind of a weird one, which I would like to call logic or sense. To be clear, I mean that an anime should be logical or at least make sense in the universe it portrays. Of course, even with the latter explanation, an anime should at least make some sense in the real world. If there is one concept that I find very hard to accept, it's time travel. Because I'm a really big supporter of the grandfather paradox. if you guys know what that is. But an exception to that is Steins Gate. It is probably the only anime, or I would go as far as to say the only entertainment media as a whole that demonstrates the concept of time travel so brilliantly that even I approve of it. To be able to do that really deserves high mention. This element also kind of ties in with retardation because an anime should at least make sense or it would just become retarded, which is what I really don't like. Next up is an element of songs, or more specifically, the opening and ending themes. I really look into the opening and ending themes because the songs are just brilliant. But just to be honest, this element does not really concern an anime's performance at all. But it can be very helpful to me when I'm looking for new anime to watch. Some of my favorite opening and ending themes include Keep in mind that a good song does not guarantee a good anime. Well, I guess a good song lets me have something good to say about a bad anime, but an anime can't just depend on the opening and ending theme because they are mostly good anyway. Competition, bruh! And then we finally come to the last element, which is probably the most important element when reviewing an anime, and that is of course the story or the plot. It is important that the general concept of an anime appeals to me and how that concept is being told throughout. This kind of leaves out casual anime series that lack an overarching story, but that doesn't mean that I hate them. Anime such as Nichijou, Hidamari Sketch, and Aria the Animation are all really good anime to watch. If an anime is able to show me something good, it is good to go. But of course, those anime that have a story tend to favor me more because if an anime can tell a good story, that is just the best thing ever. And there you have it, those are 15 possible elements to review an anime. I feel so much more relief now that I've made this video. I hope it gives you a general idea of what I really look for when watching an anime. And yes, I've left out some things such as the soundtrack. To be honest, I don't bother about it at all because I'm busy focusing on the characters talking and all that sort of stuff. And then there is pacing, or how fast or how slow an anime progresses. This is pretty much linked with coverage, and if an anime is able to cover as much as it should, I really don't mind the pacing of an anime, as long as it stays within reasonable limits. And I also hope that this video helps in giving out suggestions of new anime that you might want to check out as well. This was just a little something, which I think is gonna be a rather long video, to blend in with the general anime song countdowns and reaction videos that I'm going to be focusing a lot on. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be continuing my reaction videos tomorrow and throughout the study break, so do look forward to that. And I guess I'll leave this video at that, and do stay tuned to the next time of whatever I make. Until next time, bye!